Hi, my name is Christina Shirillo, and my lesson unit was based on the letter B. My primary learning target was identifying words that begin with the letter B. My secondary learning target was identifying words, objects, pictures, and the letter B through play by selecting from a bucket of toys that begin with the letter B, and an interactive game called Monster Mansion Match. My learning objective for the first lesson was that students will identify the letter B and further explore vocabulary words that begin with the letter B. The materials I needed for this lesson were the classroom smartboard, whiteboard, laminated paper, dry erase markers, dry erase eraser, picture, and word cards. My lesson plan procedures were that students sang along to the alphabet song while identifying the sounds and picture underneath the letter. A, apple, B, bat, C, cat, D, dog, and so on. I wrote the letter B on the large whiteboard in front of the classroom. I asked students if they could identify the letter and the sound that B makes. Students were given laminated paper and a dry erase marker to practice writing the letter B. We then moved to the carpet in front of the smartboard to observe the letter B song. I pulled up the letter B song on the smartboard and they observed the video as well as sang along and practiced writing the letter B in the air. While the song was introducing new B words, I was writing them down on the smartboard, on the whiteboard, to review when the video ended. As a class, we read the words off the whiteboard from the video we just observed. Boy, ball, bounce, beat, book, bear, boat, big. I handed out worksheets for students to trace new vocabulary words and for them to practice writing the letter B. My opportunities for practice were that the students were practicing the B words from the video in their one-to-one discrete trial with either a teacher or a teacher assistant. For my second lesson, my learning objective was that students will become familiar with the letter B and identifying manipulatives for further practice. The link with prior knowledge for this lesson were that students were able to sit at the table and attend to the video on the smartboard. They were familiar with the letter B from the alphabet song, and students will practice the letter B with familiar manipulatives around the classroom. Materials that I used for this lesson were the smartboard, whiteboard, laminated paper, dry erase markers, erasers, bin, toy ball, toy boy, toy bear, toy boat, toy butterfly, and picture and word cards. My motivation was that I explained to students that we're going to be selecting an item from a bucket that begin with the letter B. If you select a toy that does not start with the letter B, you try again. My lesson plan procedures consisted of repeating the lesson from the day before for the children to become more familiar with the B song and B vocabulary words. We then went on to put the letter B on the smartboard as well, on the whiteboard as well, and continued to review the words. As a class, we read the words off the whiteboard from the video we observed. Boy, ball, bounce, beat. I then pulled out the bucket that was filled with the manipulatives. I allowed each student to search in the bucket for a toy that begins with the letter B. The toys included vocabulary from the letter B song: ball, boy, bear, boat, bat, butterfly. Each child selected a toy and presented it to the class, identifying it with the correct B word. Once each child took a toy selecting a B toy, we returned to our group at the table. I handed out new worksheets for students to trace the new B vocabulary words, and when students finished tracing, we read them as a class aloud once again. For differentiated instruction, students were given B word worksheets with instruction to trace written words. Certain students needed hand-over-hand prompting to hold the pencil and trace the word. Students that needed it used a weighted pencil to help them control their handwriting. And students needed gestural prompting for writing words in appropriate spacing. They needed guidance on labeling items selected from the bucket of the B word toys. So if certain students couldn't remember the vocabulary word, teachers would prompt or hint towards the answer. Opportunities for practice were that I reran the previous lesson in order to maintain their knowledge. Students practiced identifying B words in one-to-one discrete trial, and students had full access to the bucket of manipulatives and were encouraged to play while on break in the reading center with these manipulatives throughout the day. For my third lesson, my learning objective was that students will identify the letter B, further explore vocabulary words that begin with the letter B, and apply knowledge of the alphabet in the alphabet match game. The materials I needed were the smartboard, whiteboard, laminated paper, dry erase markers, erasers, picture, and word cards. My lesson plan procedures consisted of the lessons from the 2 days prior to continue to maintain these skills that they are learning. I then introduced the students into the next activity, which was the Monster Mansion Match. Monster Mansion Match is from ABC, a very popular educational website that we use in my classroom. I explained to the students that they must match the letter to the word that begins with that letter. I demonstrated by playing the game first, and I selected a letter and the word to match while reading aloud what I was doing. I had students come up one by one to play Monster Mansion Match on the smartboard, and we read aloud the letter and the word that they were identifying. Each student needed a different level of prompting. Some students needed hand over hand, gestural, partial, or verbal. I was writing down each word from the alphabet, and we reread the words at the end of the game as a group. For assessment, I observed students and assessed them through observation. Data was taken on the level of prompting needed to complete the worksheet, the way they were sitting appropriately, and answering questions. Data was taken in their one-to-one discrete trial for mastery on identifying the letter B and vocabulary words, and also with the photo if needed. Data was taken on the level of prompting needed to participate in the Monster Mansion game. Data was taken in one-to-one discrete trial for mastering of identifying new vocabulary words with the photo from the Monster Mansion Match. Students thoroughly enjoyed this lesson. It kept it fun and interactive, and overall I think it was a very successful lesson.